Hey everyone, I went to an Indian demo day and rode several of their bikes. We're going to continue our 2024 Versus series talking about these rides and comparing the Indians with their greatest rival, the Harleys. There is a vast difference between the Harley demo rides and the Indian demo rides. With Harley, you have to attend a safety briefing before you can ride and follow several rules like no passing, no slingshotting, stuff like that. The rides are always led by Harley people, and before each ride you have to sign up for which bike you want to ride next. The Indian demo rides are nothing like that at all. Once you've verified your motorcycle endorsement and received your wristband, it's a free-for-all. On the first ride, you're expected to go with a leader so that you learn the route you're supposed to take for the rest of the rides. After that initial ride, you can ride whenever you want and whatever bike you want. You don't have to go with a leader, you don't have to go with a group, you don't have to sign up for a bike. All you do is just grab a bike and go. Generally speaking, this works fine when you only have a few people, maybe 10 or 15, but when you get 20 or 30 people and you only have 11 bikes, it becomes a little chaotic trying to figure out who's riding which bike next. Honestly, when there aren't many people, I actually like Indian's method better. It's so much more fun to just be able to grab a bike and go without waiting for a leader and without being limited by the people in front of you. But I didn't enjoy the process when there were a lot of people there. You go to get a bike and someone else gets there first, so you have to sit there and wait for them to get back. The other downside is that people tend to bend the rules because there are hardly any rules to bend. I heard guys talking about riding off the specified route to get some extra ride time, doing their own thing, etc. One guy I was talking to said that he was there last fall and he went off the road and got lost and ended up doing spin outs in a parking lot somewhere, dropped the bike and whatnot before he came back. In the meantime, other people who want to ride that bike have to sit there and wait. So that is another downside of the free-for-all method. The location for this particular Indian dealer wasn't really great either. This dealer is about a half hour from my house. I'm fairly familiar with the location. There really aren't any good twisty roads in that area. A couple of fun corners, but nothing that really stands out. And there's a decent amount of traffic, so car and truck traffic definitely slowed things down at times. Also, the dealer did not get the full Indian truck for this weekend. They just got the trailer, which means fewer bikes. Several of the bikes were not present: the Scout Classic, Super Scout, Chief Bobber, Chief Dark Horse, several others. I really wanted to ride the Springfield Dark Horse, but it wasn't available on the trailer. What we did have available was the FTR R Carbon, Scout Bobber, Sport Scout, 101 Scout, Sport Chief, Super Chief Limited, Springfield Classic, Chieftain Limited, Challenger Dark Horse, Roadmaster Limited, and Pursuit Limited. I rode 9 of those 11 bikes. One thing I experienced across most, if not all of the Indian bikes, is the reach to the bars. If you've watched my channel for any length of time and remember back to when I owned both an Indian Scout and then a Chieftain, I struggled with the length of these bikes in the long reach to the bars. I'm 5'6", and every single one of these bars was a stretch for me. Of course, some bikes are designed that way on purpose. The more sporty bikes have an aggressive stance. The Sport Scout and Sport Chief, the FTR, the Scout 101, for instance. But even on the bikes that are supposed to have a relaxed riding position, the Springfield, Chieftain, Challenger, I could feel a little bit of strain on my shoulders from reaching to the bars. Probably the one bike that was most comfortable with the stock bars was the Springfield. That bike comes closest to being comfortable for me. They had also put reduced reach bars on the Roadmaster, so that was very comfortable for me. Even though the reduced reach bars only give another 2 inches of pullback, that 2 inches made a huge difference. So if I were to get an Indian, reduced reach bars would definitely be in order. Let's get to the actual review. Here we are at the last of the Indian test rides with the Indian Pursuit. The Pursuit is Indian's heaviest and most expensive bike other than the Elite models, which are not available for the demo rides from Indian. That is kind of disappointing because Harley does let you test ride the CVOs on their demo rides. But anyway, before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the Challenger and compare that to the Harley Road Glide. As I mentioned in a previous video, I wasn't able to ride the Challenger due to time constraints and its popularity. The Challenger starts at $26,500 and ranges all the way up to $32,500. It's more expensive than the Road Glide, which ranges from $26,000 to $28,200. Both have chrome and blacked out options. The Challenger's Power Plus 108 engine has 128 foot-pounds of torque just a tiny bit shy of the 130 foot-pounds on the Road Glide's 117 engine, but the Challenger has 122 horsepower, whereas the Road Glide only has 105. So putting that together, the Power Plus 108 is actually probably just a little bit more powerful than the Milwaukee 117. Both weigh almost the same, just a couple of pounds apart, sitting around 840 pounds. Both have frame-mounted shark-nosed fairings with full infotainment systems, but Harley's new upgraded system does surpass what Indian has now. The 2024 Challenger is basically the same as the 2023 version, and I'm trying to remember that ride from last year to get a good comparison. I feel like the Challenger is smoother and the windshield is better on the Challenger, but the Road Glide has the tall bars with plenty of adjustability and is more comfortable. The Challenger would need the reduced reach bars, at least for me. Because I don't have a 2024 Challenger ride to compare with, I'm going to call these two a tie. They are both very similar, with each one having a couple of pros and cons, but what happens when we move up to the Pursuit and the Road Glide Limited? The Pursuit has the same Power Plus 108 engine with 128 foot-pounds of torque, whereas the Road Glide Limited is still on the 114 engine with 122 foot-pounds. The Road Glide Limited weighs 20 pounds more than the Pursuit, which means Indians gets a point with not only power, but even better power to weight ratio. Both have 6-gallon tanks. The seat height on the Harley is a half-inch higher. The Pursuit has better electronics and an adjustable windshield and a longer wheelbase, which makes it a little bit more stable when riding on the road. The Pursuit is a couple thousand more expensive than the Road Glide Limited, starting at $35,000 versus the $32,500 of the Road Glide Limited. So just like the Roadmaster and Ultra Limited, we end up in a scenario where the Pursuit looks better on paper, but what about the riding experience? Both bikes are nice, but as you know, I'm not a fan of the shark-nosed fairing. I don't like the extra weight it puts on the front of the bike. This one is tougher to decide for me because I felt the extra weight of the Tour Pack on both of these bikes. I also didn't really like the handlebars on either of them. The Road Glide Limited bars are angled a little too much, and the Pursuit needs reduced reach bars for me to be comfortable. The Pursuit is more expensive, but has more power, nicer electronics, and a better windshield. As far as looks go, I'm not a huge fan of the look of the Power Plus engine. I wish Indian had made that look more like a traditional V-twin. Other than that, I think the Pursuit looks better. I like the shape of the tank, the badging on the tank and the saddlebags, and the colors on these things really pop. The Road Glide Limited only has blacked out options, no chrome, which I would prefer. So I'm actually going to give this one to Indian for a smoother ride, more options in color and trim, less weight with more power, and better electronics. Win goes to the Indian once again. So let's tally up the score. Indian has 4 wins, with the Scout over the Nightster, the FTR over the Sportster S, the Springfield over the Road King, and now the Pursuit over the Road Glide Limited. Harley has 2 wins, with the Lowrider S over the Sport Chief and the Ultra Limited over the Roadmaster. I put the Super Chief Limited and Heritage Classic as a tie, as well as the Chieftain and Challenger versus the Street Glide and Road Glide. If this were last year, Indian would have won the Chieftain and Challenger as well against the old Street Glide and Road Glide, but the massive update Harley made definitely brought up their score, but in my opinion, only enough to tie with Indian, not enough to take the win. What's really interesting to me is that the fact that Indian has more wins than Harley, yet now I'm riding a Harley, so who knows if that's going to change sometime in the future. We will see. There you have it, folks, the 2024 Versus Series between Indian and Harley. Thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned, we're going to do some Suzuki test rides next. See you soon.